Welcome to a Vietnam podcast by 7 Million Bikes Podcast. I'm your host, Neil Mackay. As we take a break right now between seasons, we're bringing you regular PodSwaps, where we bring to you a podcast from one of our friends, which is related to Vietnam. In this episode, we're going to share another touching episode from the Vietnamese Boat People podcast. Tracy Nguyen Mang has been on the podcast. It was so good, so go back and check that episode out. And she has shared one of her episodes with us before, which was the very first episode of the Vietnamese Boat People podcast. This is one of my favorite shows out there, so go and check it out. It's everywhere you can get podcasts, obviously, and the link is in the show notes. In this episode, it's episode 5 of the Vietnamese Boat People podcast called Slumdog Brothers, all about Tracy's family. Enjoy the episode. Cheers.
They put me in jail like a month. I was 13 years old. It's horrible because the police would ask all kind of questions and they're using one of the stick to hit me, because they want me to tell the truth. I know that my mom is a part of it, involved in that, but I didn't tell them the truth, using one of the stick, to hit me, so many times, even though I'm crying, but I'm not telling them, what's going on.
Hi, I'm Tracy Nguyen Mang, and welcome to Stories of the Vietnamese Boat People. In episode 4, I shared my family's story of how difficult life became after the Vietnam War ended. And under the communist rule, policies were enforced to create a classless society where citizens became laborers, and the government owned, controlled, and distributed the fruits of that labor. Having heard rumors of how people were starting to flee the country, my parents began trying to escape when it became clear that there was no future for the kids. In 1979, my oldest brother Steve and my dad left. They were the first in the family. My mom was left with 6 kids to raise on her own. I sat down with Mom and asked, "What happened after Dad and Steve left? Did neighbors start to notice?" She said a local authority who knew our family noticed the very next day and casually said to her, "Once they find out that your husband is missing, they will come and question you and raid the house and take any food or supplies you have as punishment." He was giving Mom a tip. Mom immediately gathered the children to harvest all of our crops on the farm, even if they weren't ripe. She cut down all the rice stalks, picked whatever banana and mangoes had grown on the trees, and ran to the neighbors asking them to hide it for us. In exchange, Mom promised they could keep a portion of the food for their own families. Within 3 to 4 days after my dad had left, the authorities came searching the town. They first questioned the neighbors. Luckily, our town stood together and created a lie for us. They said that Mom's husband had not been happy, that finally one day he just snapped and just took off and abandoned the family, and that the family was so poor, always begging everyone for food, that they wouldn't have had the money for an escape. One of the neighbors got to my mom in time to tell her and said she needed to stick to the same story. So when they came ransacking our home on day 5, Mom lied, just as they told her to. She said as for my brother Steve, he followed the wrong crowd. She broke down into tears and said she can't be bothered looking for either of them. She has 6 children she needed to take care of. Of those 6 children, there were 3 boys, ages 15 to 10, and 3 girls, ages 7 to 2. I was the baby. Of the 3 boys, Mom said Chris felt the burden the most. This is what Chris remembers.
I have 1 younger brother and 3 younger sister at that time, and the youngest one, 2-3 years old. I had to take care. I feel like even though at that time I was 13, but I still have to take care. My mom, she had to go out to go to work. She's not gonna come home until like late at night. So I want to make sure that I can cook, take care of them. I'm trying to learn how to fishing. It's a small river, nearby my house, with a couple of neighbor, which is about same as my age, and then to cook and to feed all my sister and brother to take care of them.
By 1979, Vietnam had isolated itself from the rest of the world. It was impoverished by the new reform.
They control the living, the way you live in. They control everything, especially, they control like where you go and what you do and everything. And it's made your life difficult at that time.
Was everyone poor?
Yeah, not only majority, most of the people is all poor. They changed the money, currency, the money. So what happened is they allow only each family, I'm giving an example, each family allowed to exchange the money like $1,000. I'm just give an example. So if you have more than $1,000 in the house, so you have to give to some other family so they can exchange for you, because they allow only each house only $1,000, and then you gotta give some money for them too, because they do for you a favor.
The government changed the currency a few times. This was to wipe out any wealth and private businesses and to reset Vietnam into a classless society. This made it almost impossible for families to accrue any savings. People felt helpless and hopeless.
I feel like what I have to do. I mean, like with the situation, with the country, it totally changing. Though at that time, I'm only focused like how I'm gonna take care of my sister and brother.
My mom said my brothers really stepped up as men, even if they were only boys at the time. My brother Rocky was only 15. He was responsible for the crops after Dad left. Then there was Chris, age 13, and Danny, age 10. They both headed into the city after school every day to sell cigarettes, tea, and rice on the trains and in the city markets.
I went to the train. My younger brother are like 10 or 11. So we buy rice. So we bring into a different city, which is we took by train. And we tried to save some money. So we didn't buy the ticket for the train. So before the train get to the station, different city, we try to unload everything before we get to the station. Because when we get to the station, they caught us. Every time the train, they get to the station, they always like slow down. They go slow down. So once they get into the gate to one of the destinations, so we try to, jump down to get out, jump down and, to push all the stuff, all the rice bag, then we jump down. At that time, all I just focus is, make some money and we just feel like we can't stand, we need to get out of here. Don't have any money left to give up each of us to try to escape out of the country.
In order to escape Vietnam, you had to either pay in advance or put a deposit down for a spot on a fishing boat. There were no refunds and no guarantees. It was a crapshoot that millions were willing to take if they could find the money. All of this was normally orchestrated through a middleman who would charge an uplift on the desperate people. Some would eventually say that the police were onto them and took all the money. You didn't know if they were lying or not. It was hard to know who to trust. But Mom said even if you got scammed, no one would dare to go to the police to report such a thing. Because of the frequency of the currency changes, gold became the new stable currency. Mom said at that time it cost about 3 ounces of gold per person to escape. To put that in perspective, 3 ounces of gold today is almost $4,000. That money was used to pay for a fishing boat, to buy gasoline and some food for the journey, but also to bribe officials, gatekeepers, and coast guards on duty to look the other way. My mom had made friends with a couple in the market where she sold goods, who had just lost one of their sons in the recent war with Vietnam and Cambodia. They were desperate to figure out how to get their other boys out of the country. They said they had the money. Mom made a deal. She said, if I arrange to have your kids escape, in exchange, I need you to lend me money so my 3 boys can escape as well. The next day, she decided to go down to the fishing harbors and hang out all day, pretending to sell knick-knack, but secretly eavesdropping and observing the scene to see which boat owners might be planning an escape.
Somehow she met one of the owner of the boat that they want to fool the people together so they can, to get out of the country. He told my mom, like, if you can find like people and try to escape from Vietnam, give me some gold. I think like the people in your family can go.
Now Mom became the main orchestrator because it meant that her kids had a chance.
So she went all over the country, to Saigon, to Nha Trang, whoever had the money, if they want to, their kids try to escape from Vietnam.
But paying for a spot on a boat was only the first step.
Well, the first time, me and one of my older brother and the other younger brother, 3 of us, we left at the darkness. It's past midnight, so we have to pretend like we going to the, swimming at the ocean. And with a whole bunch of people, we kind of separate. We're not gonna go like the whole crowd group though. So we separate like 3 people in one group, 3 people in one group, pretend like we going to the beach and stuff like that. So we got in the small boat. They coming in, so they pick us up. They pick us up, and then they go out a little bit further, and they got big boat waiting outside. So that way they can pick up us later. But we went like 2 days, and the owner said could not make it because it's raining, thunderstorm, and the weather was so bad at that time. So they decided to turn around, and during turnaround, we have to pray, regardless if you are Catholic, Buddhist, whatever, we have to pray, make sure that we can get back safely. So we got back, I believe, 3 o'clock in the morning. So everybody get off the boat. But we don't know where the heck we are at that time. We have no idea. Not even Nha Trang, not even close to Nha Trang. So we say everybody get out, and everybody had to find a way to go home. Before we escape, my mom always give us a little bit money. So just in case if we not make it, then we can turn around. At least we have my money, to get home. Yes, and we went to one of the bus stations. So we all walk. We walked about 3-4 miles, but around 3-4 o'clock in the morning, and we walk, but we walk like on the sideway because we are afraid that police they maybe saw us. So every time we see the car coming, so we have to hide into one of the tree bushes. So make sure that nobody can see us. So we wait until early in the morning. Once we get to the bus station, we go home from there. I'm not feel sad or anything. I feel like, thanks God, we say that, we come back though. Like 6 months later, the next time my mom asked me if I want to escape again, I said sure. At the second time, we went to one of the village that's nearby the beach. That's where with the small boat, they're gonna come pick us up, around over the midnight. But during that night, when we stay at one of the village. Somehow at that night, I guess because that village, they feel like something going on because a lot of people, stranger people in their village, so they kind of report to the police. That night, the police, they was go to each of the house to check, to make sure if you are resident address or if you come from somewhere, why didn't you report to the police that you come here to visit. So I was caught during when I was sleeping. So they come in, and they check all the paper, the ID, say who are you, where do you live, stuff like that. So they find out we are a group of people trying to escape from Vietnam. So I was caught them, and I was they put me in jail like a month.
And what was jail like?
I was stay with all the adult people there, and we have all like different types of the crime. People living staying in one room, and it's horrible because in the morning to the bathroom only once a day. That's it. Okay, regardless, only in the morning.
What about Ane and Ambe? Were they with you?
No, at that time they're not with me.
My mom said my other brothers ran home and told her what had happened.
Nói Út cha rừng ná đứa con thằng đi nợ đi. Út cha thằng ná bị bắt rồi. Để mẹ nói nghe khi nợ là...
She panicked that Chris was not with them. Not only was she scared for his safety, but she knew that the police was going to try to find out who was the orchestrator of the escape.
Dì bố là dì chết á. Tại
She was afraid that Chris was going to reveal everything.
đâu thằng ná anh khai là mẹ tôi trước khi dì chết á. Khi nào mẹ không giảm. Mẹ nọng ruột nọng gan mẹ.
After all, he was just a child.
I didn't tell them the truth that my mom. I said I didn't know. I didn't know anything because my mom just told me to go into with these people and go into the Saigon stuff like that. So I didn't tell the truth. So they tried to using one of the stick, to hit me. So many times. Even though I'm crying, but I'm not telling them, what's going on. So at that time, my mom know where I was kept. But she afraid to go visit me because she afraid that if I tell him, she part of it, so they maybe kept her too. So she didn't want to come to visit me. She was so scared because when I got home, I told Mom, I said, how come you didn't come visit me? She said she was scared. She don't know what I'm telling the police at that time. And she not even living at home. She had to go to her friend to go somewhere to live because she afraid that if I tell the truth, the police, they go after her and go to the house and got her.
Chris was in prison for a month. There was no trial or anything. One day, they just decided to let him go. And when they finally released him, he returned to school the next day and was expelled.
So the school was kicked me because they say, my family is a part of the South Vietnam.
So you got kicked out of school?
I got kicked out of school, and I was, trying to go on the street to selling, some stuff to make some money. My mom was asking 3 months later. She asked me if I'm afraid to try again. I said, no, I'm not afraid. I can try to escape again. I was with my younger brother and my older brother with me, and with another cousin too. I left right at the Nha Trang, one of the canal Nha Trang. So I pretend like one of the fishing, guy, at that time. And they didn't pay attention because I was like a little kid. So they don't really pay attention to me much. So I'm just pretend like one of the fishing, guy on the boat. Because as soon as you go out, they check to make sure that we all register, we all have a license to fishing, stuff like that, whoever on the boat. But I was lucky because they didn't check my ID or they didn't ask me much. I guess because I was young at that time, so they didn't pay attention. The other younger brother and my brother, they took a different route. We all took separate direction. But at the end, we're going to meet at one destination. So we try to go out and we wait until the sun go down, getting darker, and then we try to go further outside, and then they have a small boat out there, so they go around to pick up people, so they pick up us up, and then we go about 15-20 minutes later, and they have a big boat further out there waiting for us. They told us you gotta be there 2 o'clock in the morning. So we all have to make sure that we have to meet at the big boat out there by 2 o'clock in the morning. If not, they gotta take off. So we all try to make it. The owner of the boat said we don't know how long we're gonna be on the ocean. So every day we only have a small bowl of rice and a cup of water, that's it. once a day. And I take like 5 days to get to Philippines, Manila. And the third time I make it.
Chris and my brothers ended up in Palawan refugee camp in the Philippines, where they waited for 6 months and was eventually reunited with my dad and brother Steve in America. As for the rest of us back in Vietnam, the authorities started searching for my mom. She had to leave my sisters and I with different relatives and went into hiding for almost a year.
I want to let all the young generation, if you happen to listen to this broadcast, you got to remember where you're coming from, where your family, your grandmom, your grandfather, where they're coming from. Don't forget your roots. Again, this land is an opportunity for you. It's a freedom country. So, you need to take this opportunity and to make your dream come true.
I'm Tracy Nguyen-Meng, and thank you for listening and helping us preserve history. This episode concludes a story about my family. Coming up next season, in just a few weeks, we'll bring you stories of other families, voices from our second generation, and heartfelt memories from the humanitarians that stepped in to aid the Vietnamese boat people. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on your podcast platform and follow us on Instagram at Vietnamese Boat People. And if you have a story to share, email us at stories@vietnameseboatpeople.org.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you're like me, you may use your laptop at places where you have to use public Wi-Fi. This opens you up to digital snoopers. It's a massive problem. It can be your internet service provider, or you know who, looking at what you do online, or a cyber criminal trying to steal your bank passwords or credit card info, or even a hacker at the next table trying to steal your sensitive data. These days, it is vital that you keep your data safe. NordVPN keeps all of these snoopers away. It makes your internet activity private, protects you from accessing dangerous websites that are phishing for your data, and lets you enjoy your favorite content securely, even while away from home. And it's easy to use, even I could use it. I've actually been using NordVPN for years now here in Vietnam, and I'm excited to be an affiliate partner with them. I've used NordVPN to watch Netflix, BBC, Disney Plus with ease, and I also know that my information and data are safe from prying eyes, whoever they may be. Join now and you'll get 68% off and 3 months free when you go to my link, nordvpn.com/SMB. Just again, for those hard of hearing, nordvpn.com/SMB. The link is also in the show notes. I know nobody checks them out, but go check that out and you can get the link from wherever you are listening to this podcast. As an affiliate partner, it also means that I will get a small commission when you sign up, but at no extra cost to you. So not only will you be getting a great deal through 7 Million Bikes, you get a great VPN and you'll be supporting 7 Million Bikes podcast. Stay safe online and enjoy the shows you love. Any questions, just let me know. You know how to get in touch with me. And thanks for listening to this show. Cheers.